All right, ladies and gentlemen, another very, very special guest on the podcast today. This gentleman right here is a U.S. Army combat veteran with 2 tours, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq. He was the founder of Tactical 16, which is a publishing and consulting company that focuses on veterans getting book deals that will better their personal lives. He's been a guest on Fox News multiple times, and his work with Tactical 16 has been featured on Yahoo, MSNBC, CNN, and BBC, just to name a few. So without further ado, U.S. Army veteran Erik Shaw. Erik, what's up, man? How are you, baby?
What's up, gentlemen, man? Thanks for having me. I'm really honored to be here today.
No, man, the honor is all ours, man. We appreciate your service, first off, and we definitely appreciate you taking some time to hop on the podcast with us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a fan of what you guys have been doing for a long time, since you guys launched, and keep rolling forward with what you guys are doing, and absolutely thanks again for having me on here today.
No doubt, man. It definitely means a lot to us. So, man, hopping right into this thing, just talk about what led to your decision to join the Army and why you chose that branch over others.
So I grew up on the north side of Pittsburgh. I grew up probably 5 minutes from Three River Stadium in Heinz Field.
I like that.
Yeah, you could hear the stadium from my bedroom when I was growing up, man. It was awesome.
Oh, I like it.
But I graduated high school in '98, and was running out of options. And in '98, I pretty much told all the military recruiters, no thanks. I'm gonna figure this thing out on my own. By 2000, I hadn't figured it out, and the recruiters were looking that much better. So we made the jump over to the Army. That they had some stuff going on there that interested me, and I guess the rest is history after that.
I like it, because I was gonna ask too, man. Out of all the branches, I mean, you have Navy, Marines, Air Force. Like, what was it in particular about the Army that was just like, you know what? I think that's the one.
Well, in '98, I probably had the luxury of being able to pick from all four. In 2000, things had changed, and the Army was the only one that was keeping their hand out for me. So, beggars couldn't be choosers at that point, and they looked like the best option on the table. But looking back on it, I wouldn't have changed anything. If I had to do it all over again, I'd pick the same exact branch, same job, same everything. So I got no regrets about that.
I like that, man. Now, talk a little bit about your 2 tours that you had while you were in the Army. One was obviously in Afghanistan in 2013, but you had another one in Iraq in 2005. So just talk a little bit about what those experiences were like for you.
So Iraq in 2005 was just insane. I mean, it was right after the war kind of started. It was before we had anything really figured out. The insurgency was running pretty rampant over there at that time. It just was an extremely, extremely violent place, and we were dealing with that stuff every single day. You fast forward to my Afghanistan deployment, I had already switched careers within the military at that point, and within the Army. I got a little bit more of a technical background at that point. It was night and day, my Afghanistan experience compared to my Iraq one, but that Iraq one just built the foundation for my entire life, and in certain aspects, I'm grateful for it.
Absolutely, man. And now, obviously, anytime you're over doing a combat situation, you're going to lose people, loved ones, people that you really care about. With Memorial Day just passing by, how does that feel for you, man? Does that hit a little bit different than the traditional, civilians like myself and others that don't really understand just how serious of a situation that is?
Yeah, it's tough, and it's still happening, to this day. And when you lose a guy over there, you went through a train-up cycle with this person. You got to know their families. You got to know their kids. You got to know the ins and outs of this person because you're spending more time with them than your own families during that time frame. When you lose a guy, man, it hurts, and that pain never really goes away. You just got to find it within you to keep moving forward, keep moving the ball forward, for them, and do the best you can do with your life. And when you get the opportunities to tell the stories of the guys you lost, you do it. You keep the memories alive that way.
Now, I wanted to ask you about the word sacrifice, because I've heard this is like a big word with people in the armed forces. Is there a definition that you had for it before you joined the Army? And then what do you think of that word afterwards?
I've never really been asked that question or thought about it. I think it's still I definitely wasn't thinking about it before the military, but it's something now that probably the meaning still remains the same at this stage, and it'll stay that way the rest of my life.
I like that, man. Now, talk a little bit too, man, about both spots, Afghanistan and Iraq. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you more than the other one?
Afghanistan was like going back in time to like the 1500s or something, man. It was like the Stone Ages there, and their way of life and the way that they do stuff. I guess it works for them. I mean, who am I to judge?
And this was still in 2013, correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it probably hasn't changed that much today. And, I don't know how much is going to change in the future. But Iraq was a little bit more modernized, a little bit more put together, I guess you could say. Okay. And just two totally different cultures, man. Good, bad, indifferent with both of them. But at the end of the day, those places aren't even remotely similar. And I don't think a lot of people understand that when they compare the two. I've tried to explain that over the years, but, sometimes you just get that glazed over look and you're like, yeah, I guess they're the same. No.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I definitely, I think that it's one of those things, if you've never been there before and you haven't witnessed it firsthand, it's always going to be hard to fully understand it. I always equate it to when I'm talking about different things at the NFL level and how the NFL locker room is or a game day. It's certain things about being out there and being a part of it firsthand that if you've never done it before, you would never really fully be able to grasp that concept of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there was a lot of times over there where, I mean, none of us had seen some of them situations that we got put into, but you can't rewind it and go backwards. You got to figure this thing out, and you got to figure it out right now. And the difference between figuring it out and not could be life or death, so you're on the clock as soon as you hit the ground over there, and whatever presents itself, you're going to deal with. And you just hope at the end of the day, you made the best decisions for yourself and, the people you're trying to protect over there and your family and all that stuff. But, at the time you're just thinking survival mode, so.
Yeah, man, that definitely has to be taxing, like you said, both physically and mentally in that regard. But I want to transition a little bit to your company, Tactical 16, the publishing company, and just talk about a little bit about the company more in depth, and then also what led to you starting it.
So 2010, I was living in Pittsburgh at that time. I was working for the University of Pittsburgh as part of my transition.
Hail to Pitt, duty. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
right.
where I went. Let's go.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a small world, man. And I was living in DC for a little bit when I got off active duty. Couldn't find a job. It was a train wreck. And then University of Pittsburgh came through and asked if I'd be willing to move back to Pittsburgh. It was kind of similar to the Army situation. I didn't really have a whole lot of options on the table. So off we went. At least I knew what to expect when I got to Pittsburgh. The Army still shocks me to this day. But we moved up there, started just doing the IT sector thing, using some of the knowledge that I had in the Army and trying to build a career and support a family that way, build a resume, all that stuff. And I met Larry Richard while I was there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And he's outstanding, man. He's probably one of the greatest people I've met through this whole journey at this stage of things.
Awesome guy, man. Awesome guy.
Yeah. He got in touch with him, got to talking. He really started to plant the seed that I had a pretty decent story people might want to hear. So I sat on it for a little bit. And then I started seeing all these other veterans out there getting these book deals, and the book deals were terrible. As you know, the book industry can be pretty rough,
cutthroat.
Yeah, right. If you're making pennies on the dollar, you're doing pretty good. So we decided we could do better than that, and I didn't want to see these guys and these guys and girls getting exploited for their stories. So we just kind of launched the company in an effort to give veteran authors at that time a better fighting chance in that industry. And, if they're going to do a book deal and tell their story, they should be compensated for it. It's kind of how we were looking at it. And, our whole goal was to just cause disruption in the publishing industry. We wanted to kind of sit it on its head a little bit. And, whether we did that or not is to be determined. But but we definitely made better opportunities for a lot of aspiring writers in the veteran world. And then, we've expanded to some other segments of society as well.
Okay, so now I have a question. So the book came after the idea to start the publishing company. Is that the case?
Yeah. So my book, I didn't even want to do my book. I didn't think the story was that interesting. So I'm like, I'm not gonna get out here and write something I don't want to read myself. So we came up with the company idea, and I was like, man, I gotta write this book, because if we're gonna mess something up, I want it to be my own. I don't want to take somebody else's work and mess it up right out the box. So I finally sat down, put pen to paper. It was actually part of a Veteran Affairs VA project where they wanted to capture issues of PTSD, TBI, that type of stuff. So I just wrote it, man, and it, to this day, I still don't like it, but it planted the seeds that allowed the company to move forward. And then by the time we actually did a real book for a real author, we had some stuff figured out.
Well,
so.
And I wanted to ask you too, author to author now, did you enjoy the actual process of writing it though? Like, I understand, like, sometimes everything that goes along with publishing a book, some of the meetings and everything like that does get very tiring, and it does make you feel like, man, look, I don't have time for this. But the actual writing it part itself, what was your thoughts on that?
So mine was like a twofold deal, because I did the VA part, which was this mental health thing they were focusing on. So I was already in the writing mode, but I didn't anticipate that project going public. So the writing part of it, I enjoyed it. It does work. There's a lot of therapeutic aspects to writing that people don't understand, and you don't have to be this amazing scholar to write it. My book's proof of that. So once we decided to make that book kind of the focal point of the company, then at that point I didn't really enjoy it that much no more. But it had to be done, because we had to figure this industry out, and we had to figure it out fast. From the time we announced the company to our first trip on Fox News was 72 hours. So
Jeez.
We had 72 hours to figure out how we were going to be a legitimate publishing company, because I'm getting ready to go talk to the United States of America and the world at that point, saying that, yeah, we can do this. So, there was no turning back at that point, and we made it happen. There was some struggles and stuff going on, but we only include crayons with my book now. So
I was gonna say, though, do you anticipate writing another book though?
No, I get asked that a lot, and I thought about going back, because the resources in 2012 that we had were next to nothing compared to what we have now. I've thought about maybe going back and sending it through a professional editor and doing some more cover stuff, and actually having a marketing plan and all that good stuff for it. But it's that, as again, man, books that's a hustle.
It is.
You gotta be out there making it happen, and if you're not doing it within that first 30 to 45 days, people forget about you. So sometimes I just want that book to just kind of go away, and we'll just focus on some of these other authors we got coming out.
I find it really funny you don't like the book that much.
No, man, I didn't like the promotion part of it, and I had to do it. So it's like,
what is it? So it's more the promotion part, not as much the story. Like, do you not like how it was written? I don't know. I'm curious about that.
The story stuff is pretty good. I didn't want people thinking I launched a publishing company because I couldn't get a publishing deal.
Okay. That makes sense.
You're dealing with some of that blowback and all that stuff, and I'm trying to promote the company and a book at the same time, and that was tough, because we're trying to learn the company at that point, how to even be involved in this industry. So it was taxing, and I didn't ever start this company with the thought of promoting my own work too. So I really wanted this thing to be about the other authors and the other veterans, and stuff going on. So I'm perfectly happy when I meet people that have no idea I wrote that book. I'm proud of it. It did its job. It definitely showed us how to navigate this industry. But it definitely wasn't something that I was anticipating having to do. The first time I saw the book was on Fox News. So I was like, at this point, we ain't turning back. So.
We here now.
Now, did you have like a wow moment or a moment where you sat back and you're like, damn, this is like, really making an impact? Was there some type of story or moment looking back on everything that's happened?
I have had authors come to me that probably were within days of potentially committing suicide.
No way.
So when they reach out and this is their last ditch effort, they want to tell this story, that at that point I got to do as good as I can do to get this story told. I got to get it done kind of timely, and I got to put a sense of worth back into their lives. And we've had that a couple times. We've worked with a bunch of authors that we never even published their books because we get to a point where they're like, hey man, I'm doing really good. I got the family, up and running. Life's awesome. And they move on. And at that point, that's mission success for us to be able to do that. So that's probably, the wow moments we get is knowing that we've saved a few lives during this process.
Now, has there been anything from the Army that has helped you in this new field in terms of being able to, I guess, relate to some of these veterans and just your work ethic and compartmentalizing and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just the organizational piece and being able to provide some leadership and, this is a business at the end of the day too. We gotta be doing what's best for the company so we can keep moving forward and helping other people. Sometimes you got to make those decisions and tell people, hey, this book's not going to work, or, we're going to have to switch directions and go a different way with this story, that type of stuff. Having the ability to do that has helped be able to do it in a respectful manner that they understand and don't get offended by it. Because authors don't like being told their stuff sucks.
I was about to say, man, that's definitely a unique conversation, man.
Yeah, it's treading on thin ice when you and most of these authors have talent. It's not hitting the paper,
Right.
So we gotta. Usually, I'll sit down for a good hour before I even call them, have a beer or something, and figure out how I'm gonna break this to them. That we gotta get some stuff figured out here and without offending somebody too. So it's fun.
Now, I guess this question is for both you and Arthur. Maybe you could have a dialogue or conversation about it. But I've talked to football players before in the past, and even talking with Arthur, that there's sometimes an identity crisis when a football player leaves the NFL and kind of figuring out what they have to do post-career there. And it seems like there's some similarities there with people in the armed forces leaving that career and going back into everyday living in America. Now, I guess I don't know how we want to start this off. Is there difference similarities? Maybe Erik, you could start off with that.
So, I've had the same conversations with a lot of former NFL players as well. When you join the military, you got a sense of purpose. You got a pretty decent salary. Life's good. You're taking care of the family. Things are pretty good. The military lifestyle is not that bad. The movies kind of paint it to be a little bit worse than it is, but it's not bad. I wasn't really needing much. I was able to provide for myself and enjoy life under that lifestyle. And then when you get out of the military, it's over, man. Like, there's no more checks coming in. You got to find a whole new meaning and purpose in life. And, for combat guys, that's tough. Some guys come back from combat, they think country owes us one, and that ego gets in the way. And ego management is a tough deal in the military. And when all of a sudden you don't have a purpose no more, and then you start running into problems, and you burn through all your money, you bought a bunch of dumb stuff, and you're back to literally ground zero, square one of your life. And those are the moments that are going to make or break people. And I've seen that on the NFL side too. It's
I was
like,
about to say, it sounds like you're talking about some of the guys I know, man. Jeez.
I've explained it to people on both sides. I said, the show goes on. It's not going to stop because we stopped. And if you're not prepared for that show to go on, you could really find yourselves into some deep problems really quick.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, in terms of the correlation directly with football and armed service people, is when you leave, there is no graceful transition. It's not like when you're working at a company for 20 years and then, okay, the last year or two, they're going to ease you out and phase you out in that regard. It's usually an abrupt, okay, you were in combat, now you're home, or you were playing in the NFL and now you're done. They don't give you the, oh, let's ease him on out of this thing. Let's make sure he's taken care of and all these other things as he goes out. So a lot of times if the players, or I'm speaking just from the player standpoint, if they don't have that plan already in place, when they leave, they spend a year or two just trying to figure out what's next. What are they passionate about? What do they have a desire to do? And then ultimately that could lead into some of the depression that we see a lot of athletes deal with as well.
Yeah, I agree. And then you're adding in, things like brain injuries and mental health concerns too. And in the military side, they'll try to work with you a little bit, but at the end of the day, that clock's ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And when your last day in the military hits, I hope you got something out of this. Good luck. Thanks for your service, and you move on. At that time of your life, you're probably not mentally even thinking about what you want to be doing 2-3 years from now. And Bills don't care. Bills don't take a break.
Not at all.
So, you just got a lot of these little factors that are piling up. And I see it with these younger NFL guys too. I mean, I think both communities are guilty of thinking it ain't ever going to end.
Correct.
And it ends. So, and it ends quick.
Yeah. And I had another question. So, the football mindset, you have to have that. I mean, obviously it's a team element of it, right? Very similar to the armed services, which why a lot of times you'll hear a lot of, armed service people coming in to speak to NFL teams and athletes because the mindset is the same in terms of having to work together for a common goal. But we all also have that alpha mentality where we feel like we can accomplish anything. We have that us against the world mentality and things like that. So from the Army side of it, right, when you're coming back from a combat situation where you've had to be on guard, where you've had to be, in layman's terms, kill or be killed situations, how do you transition back to normal civilization? How do you go about that process?
I don't know if there is that stage of your life, if anything's ever going to be normal again. And I've told people from my personal experience, I said my time in Iraq with combat and everything, because that's what I had been wanting to do since I was a kid. I was in the woods playing guns and playing G.I. Joes and doing all this stuff. I mean, the military is where I wanted to be at. It just took me a little bit longer to get there. But combat to me in Iraq, that was like my Super Bowl. I mean, that was the pinnacle of my life. That was the one thing that everybody focused on. People still talk about it. It was the one thing I did in my life that was bigger than myself for the greater cause. And I did that at like 25 years old or something. So, you get back from that, you got a lot of living to do after 25 years old. And it's like, you gotta find a way to respect what you did at that time. And then also have a plan to move forward and go chase success as a civilian, and that's kind of the same stuff I tell NFL guys too.
Now, I guess you kind of mentioned it with the ego earlier on. Is there some type of X factor or constant theme of people that come back and have struggles with PTSD versus other people that come back and are a lot more, I guess, equipped to
acclimate to the surroundings,
to get back to normal life? Yeah.
So I don't think there's a whole lot of ego stuff involved with some of the PTSD stuff that's going on. A lot of that is situational. And the human brain is the human brain. What I feel is traumatic might not be traumatic to you. So, and vice versa. so all these cases they're all different, you know, and that's why it's been so hard to put a finger on, you know, a common bond, a type of cause, because there isn't. I mean, it's just, it comes down to what your brain feels it doesn't want to deal with, and that is different for all people, you know. And then when you start adding in like legitimate head injuries and stuff, and you know, it's just kind of makes the situation worse in some cases.
No, understood. Because I'm wondering then if there's something that can be done beforehand or while people are in the armed forces, you know, some type of teaching or training. But if what you're saying is true, that it's kind of like random, it's on a person by person basis, it's hard to really put your thumb on things.
Yeah, and we train, you know, we train for as many scenarios as the military thinks they can come up with that we might encounter in situations. But you know, at the end of the day, you when you're in a controlled training environment, there's still a part of you that's not taking it completely serious, versus when you get out in the real deal and now you have to take this serious.
Right.
And then it's at that point you don't know how somebody's brain's going to react. I saw dudes that I thought were just steel, unbreakable. You know, we'd get in one little situation and you could see it in their eyes, man, they checked out, they were gone. So you know, you just don't know.
No, definitely. Now, I wanted to ask you and kind of transition to a lighter note here. I was looking at the end of your bio. One of your hobbies, you said playing softball with Toby Keith, and I like how it was just thrown in there kind of nonchalant. I mean, do you call up Toby Keith? You're just like, hey man, let's go hit a few in the backyard here, play some softball.
It's kind of like my book, man. You know, my book got me here, but at the same time, I just slotted in there that I was done, because I don't want anybody to actually go read it. And I don't want people to come see me hit softballs with Toby Keith either. So, but yeah, no, it's been cool, man. The Tackle 16 experience has just opened up so many doors for us. And you know, when a door opens and an opportunity presents itself, you do your best to take advantage of it. And that was this celebrity softball thing, I think came about in like 2015, 16, something like that. And you know, we've just met so many cool people through those games, and it's just led to other things. And Toby was one of them, man. And he's just such a cool dude. His whole team that he works with are some of the realest people I've ever met in my entire life. And to the point that, I mean, he could be your neighbor, honestly, and, you know, and still be Toby Keith at the same time. That's great people. We met Matthew McConaughey and all these other guys too through that. And they're all just genuine, normal people. They want to know about military stuff. And you know, I'm always, you know, curious to pick their brain on what they do for a living too. So it's a cool relationship.
I like it. I like that. Now, you being from Pittsburgh, the north side of Pittsburgh, right near Three Rivers Stadium, you got to be a Steelers fan, correct? Just go ahead and put it out there.
Yeah, I don't think I had a choice.
Hey, I'm about to say, yeah, I personally didn't think you had a choice. I just wanted to, you know, present it as if you did have a choice. But either way, glad that you are a Steelers fan. So, obviously, with the sports world, I mean, everything came to an abrupt ending with the COVID-19 situation. And there have been talks about sports returning with no fans, or, you know, the NFL season returning in particular with no fans in the stadium. Are you excited about football potentially returning? And would you enjoy it the same knowing that fans couldn't be there?
I think the fan thing is going to be tougher on you guys and the players, because I know how much you feed off that environment, home and away.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming.
Absolutely.
For me, watching it on TV is going to be the same. I'm thinking. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of change there. I can't really see the NFL not getting their season in. I mean, you think about all the money and stuff they got tied into TV contracts and all that. They're going to get that season in. I don't know what that's going to look like. At that stage, I'm definitely going to be excited to see that on TV. After watching reruns of sports for the last 3 months, I think the Penguins have won the Stanley Cup like 42 times at my house since this thing started. So. Yeah, I think the no fan thing is going to be a bigger deal for you guys.
And then, I mean, you threw in the Pens also, you know, they're talking about doing a 2014 playoff returning. So are you excited about that also, or what's your thoughts on that?
I'm not that excited about that. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't want to lose the next season.
Okay.
And we're going to lose if they do this tournament thing, which it does. It sounds fascinating. I just wish they'd have come up with this idea 2 months ago.
Yeah.
We're going to be digging into the next season, and it's like, are we going to play? We're going to have 2 shortened seasons in a row. I'd rather they just kind of count their losses this year and just park it and start from scratch in October. But again, you're talking big time money and all that stuff involved with these leagues, and they gotta get their money. So I don't know. I'll watch it, but I'm not gonna be upset to have it on the TV. But I'd prefer they just didn't do it.
They might be able to make it work. I'm guessing they would push it back, just kind of like the NBA. They're talking about moving their next season, the start date, to Christmas. So I'm assuming the NHL would do something like that too. And that might even make things a little better for next year's playoffs coming into the summer, late summer, whenever you have the dog days and all that's on is Pirates baseball, and they're, out of the playoffs already. So it might be something more enjoyable to watch going into July, August. We'll see, though.
Well, during this time frame, like I said, the Penguins won the Stanley Cup like 42 times. I think the Steelers won the Super Bowl like 16 times, and somehow the Pirates still only won 1 World Series. So, even in a downturn, they can't figure it out. So.
Oh man!
Now, do you have a record prediction for the Steelers? Any hot takes?
Drum
Boy,
roll.
on the hot seat. I mean, right out the gut, I just want to say 8-8 because that seems to be where we just go now. But I think, for some reason, I'm thinking a 10-win season. They could have had 10, 11 wins last year if they could have figured that quarterback thing out.
Yeah.
And they're not. I don't think they're going to waste that defense right now because that thing's ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see 10 wins and definitely get into the playoffs. The Steelers aren't really known for not making the playoffs. What would this be, year 4 in a row? So
yeah, that's crazy. You just said that. I'm like in my head, like, has it been that many? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them missing the playoffs 4 years in a row.
Are you not as amped about the Big Ben return as most of us? To where him coming back means, 13, 14 wins.
I got to be honest, as a fan, I'm guilty, and I'll admit it, and I'll speak on behalf of any injuries that don't want to admit it. But I think we took that guy for granted, and we didn't realize how important he was to the grand scheme of that team until he wasn't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a Steeler fan and you're not concerned about a future without Big Ben, I don't know what you're watching. So
absolutely,
100%, man. Laid it out there well.
I like that. But man, Erik, we definitely appreciate you hopping on the podcast with us, man. This was a fun conversation, and yeah, man, we just appreciate you for your service also, man. So definitely thanks again for hopping on with us, man, and keep being great in everything that you do.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you having me on here. We'll get both you involved in this celebrity softball stuff. So,
hey, okay.
Yeah. We got to bring something back to Pittsburgh, though. We got to figure that out.
Absolutely.
So,
wow.
We'll go out there and have some fun.
That'd be dope.
I like it, man.
Appreciate it.
Well, yeah, man. Like I said, we appreciate you again, man, and we look forward to talking with you again in the future, all right?
Yes, sir. I'll be here.
All right.